Okay guys, we hit Walmart. Obviously, we gotta hit David Art Center. Alright, so if you are buying for the watercolorist in your life, and that's what I'm going to focus on today, I really like the silver black velvet brushes. I use the heck out of these things. They are a mix of synthetic and natural fibers. They last a long time. They basically have the best properties of both, and I highly recommend them. These click collapse cups, the click and go cups, I use these all the time. So one thing that happens with artists is sometimes they accidentally drink from their dirty water cup, which is definitely bad news. These help remind me not to do that. Plus they have crenellations at the top so that they can actually hold your brushes, and with the addition of a paint puck, you can scrub your brush, and I really like these as well. Those of you who watch my tutorials hear me talk about brush soap all the time. This is what I'm talking about. I have a couple of these at home. However, if you want to give it a try, or if you travel a lot, this is a great little stocking stuffer. These are super neat. They are brush holders. I have a different style of brush holder that I really like, but this is a very good one as well. If you want to leave your brushes to dry, hang them drying downward so that gravity doesn't cause the tip to poof out, but instead pulls it down into a point. For brush storage, if you don't travel too much, the bamboo cups are very helpful, but if you travel a lot, these plastic collapsible tubes are also super helpful. When I was flying back and forth a lot for shows, these things were a lifesaver. If you're going to be making art, you ought to protect your art, and there are a variety of portfolios, but I am a fan of this style of portfolio that has the individual pages in it, so each of your illustrations is protected and it can be easily flipped through like it's a book. Natural sponges can be a great way to add some texture to your work, and these sort of butcher's trays, especially if you paint larger paintings or you work really messy, they can be very helpful. But this is the palette aisle, and now that I'm not traveling so much, I'm a really big fan of the ceramic palettes. They just have a lot to offer. I also love all the teensy containers. These things make good stocking stuffers for artists, especially traditional media artists. The blue spray bottles, where are they? Don't have it. Oh yes, they do. They have some of the bigger ones. These things are great. I use these all the time for clean distilled water or rubbing alcohol. Very helpful. I also like the little glass vials to hold masking fluid or even kosher salt. So I cannot sing their praises highly enough because I use them all the time. Drafting brushes, not just great for removing eraser shavings or eraser dust, but also really helpful for removing like salt and just kind of cleaning your area of dust. These things I use too, so there you go. Now, while they have a really nice selection of rulers, I am super partial to clear acrylic rulers, especially clear acrylic T-squares, as well as the kind that have a grid. As a comic artist who cannot draw a straight line to save her life, these actually help me square things up pretty handily. They have a couple more over here, including some longer ones. So what I would recommend, actually, I may end up, no, that one's a little flimsy for me, but 24 inches is a great size if you work in comics, because usually you're working on a ratio of 9:6, so it would scale up to 11:17. So you want something a little bit larger than what you think you need, and a T-square makes that really easy to get everything squared up. One of the best aisles in the whole house, the watercolor aisle. So over here we have PWC watercolors, and not only are these a professional grade watercolor that I use pretty frequently, but the prices are so good. The prices are so good. So this could be a great way to give the gift of professional watercolor to someone who's maybe dabbled with student grade, knows they like it, and would like something nicer. And these are the big tubes too, so you're going to get a lot of paint for your money. And of course, Sennelier is always an excellent choice, as well as M-grams. But with M-grams, you do have to be careful because a lot of people have problems with them molding. Daniel Smith, oh, they've restocked everything. And they have HWC, which is also really nice, but very similar, I've found, in terms of formulation to PWC. So I would say go with PWC and just get the colors in HWC that PWC doesn't have. And then they have their Winsor Newton all restocked and their coral restocked. But they've also started recently carrying Schminke. And they've even got the beautiful Supergrams. So it was just pointed out to me that they have a bunch of stuff. They always figure out ways to like squirrel more in here. So I've noticed they're starting carrying the Rosa. So they've got Rosa Gouache, more of the Rosa Gouache, and then the Rosa sets over here. And apparently they've got My Marie Blue coming in, which I'm really excited about because it's really nice. And it's hard for me to justify placing an order for it, but I could probably like pick one tube up at a time. And it's also pointed out to me that they've added like a whole extra rack of Daniel Smith. Look at that. Isn't that just so beautiful to look at? Gilding is starting to become popular again, especially like on art. And I've seen it popping up a lot on TikTok. And they've got a nice little gilding section here. I'm too chicken to try it, but maybe you guys will be braver than me. And then, all the, like they've got crystal clear. And I'm looking for the matte fixative. Not seeing it. I'm sure they have it. And maybe this feels like it's new. Like they changed this up too. I come pretty frequently and they're always adding new stuff. So I talk a lot about watercolor papers, but I want to make this kind of simple in case you're not a watercolor artist and you want to buy for a watercolor artist. Fluid 100 is a good affordable cotton rag paper. It's kind of a good workhorse, and those are block bound, so it's going to hold it nice and stable for you. Obviously, they have the pretty sketchbooks that we all hoard and then never use. So I usually don't recommend those unless you know someone who's going to actually use it. I like workhorse sketchbooks. So for a cheap sort of play watercolor paper, I use a lot. Canson XL watercolor paper is not bad. Is it like the best watercolor paper out there? No. But it's good for making paper crafts, or it's good for doing watercolor studies or watercolor doodles. I also really like Stonehenge Aqua. I feel kind of similarly to Stonehenge Aqua as I do to Fluid 100. Stonehenge Aqua has a little bit more of an assertive paper texture than Fluid 100. It doesn't take masking fluid as well, but it's typically a little bit less expensive. And then Shizen. Okay, so if you're looking for something fun and you're not really used to assertive papers, Shizen is a great option. And it's look how much you get. Look how much you get. Look how little you pay. Shizen is great. Has a very assertive personality, but if you can just roll with that, it is really fun to paint on. And look again, look how much you get, look how little you pay. And it is a handmade paper, and it's a cotton rag paper, so it can be a great way to just kind of noodle around on cotton rag papers without spending buku money. But if you're looking for other more standard options, they do have like Arches, which Arches is good. They also have Fabriano, as well as brain is blanking, lots of Hahnemühle. I don't particularly love Hahnemühle, so I'm not going to necessarily recommend it. And then, of course, they've got even more sketchbooks since the last time I came. Now, as a marker artist, from time to time, I find Strathmore's toned colored mixed media papers, the tone tan, the tone blue, the tone gray, a lot of fun to noodle around with, especially if you can start introducing some slightly more opaque media like gouache or gel pens. Now, they have a big selection of larger papers, like these here, as well as in this section here. But I would recommend that if you're buying for someone else, unless you know what they want, I would avoid the bigger papers, just because they're cool, yes, but you have to do something with them, and if you don't, they can be very prone to getting damaged. So it's really better, unless you know they want that, or unless you know they collect paper or something like that, to just go ahead and get like something smaller that's more pre-cut and more manageable. Now, something that people don't really think about, but could be a wonderful gift for an artist, especially an artist who doesn't normally get their work framed, would be to frame their work for them and have it professionally done. Now, David's can do that for you. They do some beautiful work, or you can frame it using some of their pre-cut mats and some of their pre-existing frames. But as someone who generally, I don't frame my own art just because I'm selling it. I had a few of my own pieces professionally framed this year, and it really improved my relationship with my art, and it got me to think about it in a different light. So that could be a wonderful gift to encourage someone who might be feeling kind of down about their art and needs like to see it from a different light. So if you're buying for a watercolor artist who isn't as established, I would recommend getting some coroplast. It doesn't have to be the colorful stuff. You can get just the white, and cutting it down to the size they typically work in. This is what I use for my stretcher boards, and it's lightweight. It does the job beautifully, and I've been using the same boards for 10 years. So maybe I need a refresh, but that could be a great gift for an artist that they might not necessarily think of for themselves. Storage is another thing we always need. It can be a little expensive, so we tend not to get it for ourselves, and it can be a really great gift because it basically makes the space more usable again. So not only are you giving them easy access, a way of organizing things, a way of protecting their art supplies, but you're also giving them space back. So something else I have to say about David's is they are always super friendly, super helpful. I was checked in on multiple times to see if I needed anything, and they are always happy to tell you about like what's new and what's coming out, or cool. Oh, thank you. See what I mean by super helpful? Anyway, they're just super nice here, and their prices are very fair, and they always have a good selection, and if they don't have something, they'll try to get a hold of it for you. So that's why every time I do a gift guide series, I always include David's, because they're great, and more people in the area should know about them and give them their business, because it is a local art supply store that genuinely cares in a way that Michael's doesn't care, and Walmart doesn't care, and Hobby Lobby doesn't care, and I'd like them to stay in business for forever. So yes, that is my gift guide, walkthrough, very drawing and watercolor focus for David's Art Supplies in Metairie, Louisiana. And we don't have any affiliation. I've been a customer and a fan since I was 14, and I'm 36 now, so 22 years I've shopped with them.